Hey guys, my name's Jeremy. Welcome back to Tethan Props. For this build video, I'm going to show you how I went about making my Viking inspired Batman helmet. The idea from this came from online. I saw someone did a hammered metal texture on a similar helmet, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to see a Batman inspired Viking helmet with horns, hammered metal texture, and all the extra details. So how did I go about building this? I started off with your classic EVA floor mats. So to make this helmet, it probably took about one of these larger sheets, maybe two. So it's very inexpensive, maybe $12 for 4 sheets. So very cheap to make a helmet like this. So I got the paper files of the Batman helmet offline, and then out of the EVA foam, I constructed the entire helmet. That was the easy part. The next part was very tedious. I went along and had to Dremel out every single little hole that you see over it. So to do this, I used my Dremel tool and I had a rounded sanding bit. And this made a good indent across the surface. So I tried to do it as randomly as possible because to get the hammer textured look, it's not all uniform. You have some larger ones, some smaller ones, some that are joined together. So I just went across the entire helmet, trying to do it as random as possible to give it the desired look. Important thing to note is I left the area around the eyes and the nose, I left that clean because I wanted to have that as more of a sheet metal look. The next thing that I worked on was the construction of the horns. So these horns, I tried to get them to look like bones. So what I did was heat sealed them and then went along with the Dremel and carved in vertical lines, like in the grain of the horns. And it turned out looking pretty good. Chucked some battle damage in there as well and glued those on. So for the metal fittings that you see, so around the base of the horns and down the middle of the helmet and also across the top, that was done with just using strips of EVA foam. So I cut them to shape, glued them on. So on the side of the helmet here, I put what looks like sheet metal overlays of just a simple design. To do this, I used 1mm thick EVA foam, cut out my design and glued it on. To add in the rivets, I used little nail heads, chopped off the ends and put them in place. I did this for both sides of the helmet. So once all the bits were together, before we started painting, it was time to give it battle damage. So I took my Dremel tool and just across the helmet where I think that there could be battle damage, I just put in big cuts, big gouges. So this is across the top of the head, a little bit around the horns, and also on the front of the mask. So once we had the helmet looking how we want, I wanted to seal the foam. So most methods that I use is plastic dip, but this time I wanted to try a different method, try something new. And to do that, I used actual fiberglass resin. So I had to be careful not to brush too much on at once because it would then fill up our divots. So going slowly, I covered the whole thing in fiberglass, let it set, and now it's actually got a hard surface. So once this was covered in fiberglass, it was then ready to start painting. To do that, I used a dark bronze as my base coat. So that was a primer and paint combination. So I covered the entire helmet in that. And then the next layer was to go back with my silver acrylic paint and using a foam brush. It's important to use a foam brush because it gives a good, nice, even coverage. If you use a paintbrush, it also might try to get in the grooves, whereas a foam brush will stay over the top, out of all the divots, and leave the top surface silver and the divots that dark bronze color. So after I went over the entire helmet in the silver acrylic paint, it was time to paint the horns. I originally thought about doing them in a more bone color, but I thought it's Batman, he loves black, he loves being in the darkness, so I decided to go with these black horns with white tips, just to distinguish where the tips are. So now that we had the horns and the base of the helmet painted, it was time to go and start weathering it. The idea of weathering is to just put in as much dirt and grime that you think would naturally occur. And given this is a Viking helmet, they probably don't clean it that much, so I went to town on the weathering. So to do this, I got black and brown acrylic paints and put it all in the edges around where dirt would naturally build up. And a good technique is to put in a lot of paint and then wipe away any excess, because then this leaves it in all the cracks, in all the little grooves that you wouldn't be able to get it out of normally. So in the gouges and cuts in the helmet, or the battle damage, thought it would be a nice touch to add a little hint of rust. So to do this, I used a lighter orange with a dark brown and painted it in there. Again, wiped away any excess, and this left it on all the little low spots where rust would get to. So once you've finished with your weathering, it's time to give it a few coats of clear coat. So for this helmet, I used a satin clear coat. I didn't want to go with gloss clear like some of my other helmets because it was meant to look old. It hasn't been cleaned in a while. So if I was going for a brand new helmet, I probably would have used gloss clear coat, and then it would have made it come up really shiny, really metallic. But I went with a satin clear coat because I wanted it to look dirty, wanted it to look used and not brand new out of the shop. So this helmet was a relatively easy build. I'd give it about 3 out of 5 batarangs. So the hardest part really is the Dremeling. It's not hard, it's just time consuming, putting every single little hole over the entire helmet. So there we have it, the Viking inspired Batman helmet. And I know a lot of you will say, oh, Vikings didn't use horns and things like that, but it's Viking inspired. So popular culture today has Vikings wearing horns, so I decided Batman can have them as well because he's not actually real either. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If any of you try a similar method, whether that be building the Batman helmet or trying the hammered metal texture, I'd love to see it. So hit up my Facebook page and send me some photos if you give it a shot. All in all, I think if Batman had this, he would have no trouble at all taking on the medieval Joker. Unfortunately, I used to be able to get this on because it wasn't covered in fiberglass. So once I covered it in fiberglass, it became very stiff. So I can't actually get this on now because my head's a little bit too big. But I never really planned on doing a full suit of this. It was more of a display piece. So it does fit on my head, but not at the moment because it's covered in fiberglass and will not be bendable. And you know how tight Batman's helmet is. So it doesn't actually get on my head at the moment, but it's a good display piece nonetheless. Put it up in the pool room and have people look at it there. Again, thanks for watching, guys. Just to let you know, I am starting up my own website at the moment. It's in work in progress, so I'll let you all know once it goes live. And I've started up my Instagram account and really ramped up the amount of Facebook that I've been using. So go on all the social pipes, look up just Tethan Props. It's a pretty unique name, so no one else has it, so you'll easily know that it's me. And just hit them all up so you can follow all the work that I'm doing. There's a lot of stuff coming in the works, a few commissioned items, and my biggest project yet, which some of you might have seen if you've been on my Instagram. But yes, it's Lord Saladin's armor from Destiny. It's going to be a full suit of armor and it's going to look great when it's done. So keep in touch to follow along with it. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.